Remember, kids, you can be cool too if you subscribe to Geek Legion of Doom.
Directed by Lily Pickering, but in other places the name of the director is actually listed as Lily Mellor, so who knows who the actual director of this movie actually is. I suspect that might be a pseudonym. We are talking Sharks versus Mermaids, also known as Mermaid versus Shark. Why do I say that's possibly a pseudonym? Well, when we talk about the movie, you might get an idea. I can tell you that it is produced by Louisa Warren, who is a UK film producer who has produced many low-budget, quickly produced B-movies, many of which we've reviewed here on the channel. Now, I was aware of this film a little while ago, and I've got to say, you know, this channel, it loves a B-movie, and I thought the concept seemed quite fun, and I had no kind of like illusions that this was going to be a great movie, but I thought the concept sounded like it would be a fun one. Sharks versus mermaids? Who's not interested in that, eh? So, what's the story? Well, it focuses primarily on a brother and sister who return to a coastal town to reminisce, because the brother has lost his girlfriend a year or so before. But this coastal town seems to be under threat by two aquatic creatures. The mermaids, or sirens, who are there kind of trying to lure people into the water and eat them, but also weresharks. That's right, we've got a wereshark movie here. And our brother and sister are embroiled in this kind of possible rivalry between these two species, and maybe even a love story between these Romeo and Juliet kind of style, different kind of camps of creatures. What'll happen? You'll have to watch the movie and find out. Let's discuss. Okay, very low budget movie. Expectations in place. With that, what can we say that works in this movie's favour? Okay, the concept is a fun one. Like I said, I was aware of this movie some time ago, and, you know, I'd seen a trailer and I didn't think it looked particularly good, but I thought, oh, do you know what, it might be some fun. And I do think there is some fun to be had with this concept. So, you know, that I quite liked. I quite like the fact that we have multiple weresharks in this movie. And they are different species of sharks. So we have like a hammerhead looking one, which is kind of reminds me a little bit of the early kind of King Shark comic books, along with kind of like great white looking ones. So, you know, there's a little bit of variety in regard to our weresharks, I suppose. And I will say as well, there's one or two kind of like lines that I quite liked in regards to kind of like more comedic lines. There's a joke about foxes that I thought was actually generally quite funny, and one or two other kind of lines here that I thought, you know, that wasn't a bad line. In regard to the acting, I've got to be honest with you, the acting isn't good. We'll come on to it again, but there is, I would say, and I tried not to kind of paint everyone with the same brush. The sister, I would say, not too bad of an actor, to be honest. She probably is the best actor of the bunch. Everyone else, I've got to be honest with you, it looks like they've emptied out the local building site for the men and the local nail bar for the kind of the females, and basically said, do you want to make a movie? Which leads me into what doesn't work. And I hope you're sitting comfortably for this one, because this might take a minute. Okay, now we have to acknowledge the fact this is a very low budget movie. But the acting isn't great. I mean, like I said, with the exception of maybe this sister, and I fear she'll just get tired of the same brush as everyone else, the acting is quite poor. And, you know, I can imagine the director, whoever that was, because I do not believe Lily Pickering is actually a real person, was going, emote! Look sad! You know, it kind of looks like that, you know. The acting isn't strong in this movie. The movie's tone also was, I don't know, this Sharks versus Mermaid, this should have been like a Troma-esque kind of style, camp, kind of goofy B-movie, but it sort of takes it sort of seriously, which was the wrong move for a film like this. A lot of these British productions, and at least this one isn't pretending to be in America, because a lot of these low-budget British productions want to pretend to be, you know, in the States to try and sell to the US audience. At least this one, I mean, it looks like it's filmed on the southeast coast of England somewhere, because it's dreary, it's shingle beach, it ain't looking pretty, let me just say that. But anyway, you know, it's just as a kind of a poor movie overall. You know, we've got these mermaids rocking up on this kind of very small beach with this kind of like these like coastal houses nearby. They're just there. They're just randomly there. God, where to start with this one? Okay. We talked about the acting. We won't harp on about it kind of too much. Let's talk about some technical stuff. All right. So so I actually watched this on a streaming service called Foursome, and there were some audio artifacts in there, like these kind of like crackly sounds. I'm not sure if that was in the actual movie or just it was a poor copy uploaded to the service. So I'm not going to say that it was as a critique of the actual movie, because I'm not sure it was the film necessarily, rather than just this maybe the service, but be aware there was a couple of audio artifacts. But what it is on the film is some quite poor audio mixing, where, you know, you just can't hear. I mean, people go back to the acting, a lot of the actors are mumbling. They're hard to understand. And then the audio is just terrible and it just seems to change volumes, and it's some dialogue, not that the dialogue is sparkling or anything, but the dialogue is a lot of the time drowned out by kind of like, you know, either music or kind of like the sound effects and things like that. So not that it was sparkling dialogue, to be brutally honest, but yeah, you'll kind of miss a load of dialogue here. And it genuinely makes me think, did they look back when this film was put together and kind of check the final product? Because it just doesn't, I just don't feel like they could have done, because it's just so blatant, so sort of like poor quality audio. You know, they haven't like tried to re-record lines or stuff like that, or reduce the volume of the music. It just seems like they've bunged it on and it's just like, that'll do. That's what it feels like to me. There's awful camera work in this one. There's like static shots where the camera's just like flying all around. There's horrible editing where you can't see what's going on. I mean, the initial part of the movie, if we just watch the initial part of the movie where we have our group of friends come to the beach, and then it's interspliced with like these like sirens just hitting at the camera, or you know, these kind of were sharks, and we'll talk about them in just a second, don't you worry. Just randomly kind of edited in. It's just awful editing. The production, it just seems so, I mean, I know these movies are made quickly, but it looks like it in this one. So it's the actual production here is just crap. It is a really bad production. Let's talk about the effects. Okay, now again, I'm a little forgiving with low budget effects, because I appreciate these budgets are very, very low. Probably this one, I would estimate a couple of £1,000, £5,000, if that. Okay, so the mermaids, they've got like rubber or kind of like cloth type practical tails. I mean, they don't look brilliant, but at least they're kind of, you know, are fine. I mean, they just kind of like, the mermaids are just like randomly just on the beach. Some of them are wearing like store-bought clothes and things, like the brassieres and stuff like that. You know, I didn't really see the point of the mermaids, I have to be honest, either. That they just seem to randomly show up, and I think have really little impact on the actual story. I mean, they kind of, at points, they sort of look like they have a little bit more monstrous at time to time, but again, even that's inconsistent. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Don't really know why it changes. Whatever. I mean, it just is. Let's talk about the were-sharks. My God. Okay. So, curse of the were-shark. How does this work? Okay, so when the full moon hits, what happens is the victims suddenly get a rubber shark mask. And we're literally talking about a shop-bought rubber shark mask. Oh my God, they're cursed with wearing this rubber shark mask. And then the gods of filmmaking animate it with AI to make it do things. I mean, you can even see like the end of the mask and stuff. And then it's just this embarrassing sequence where we have men in rubber shark masks running up and down the beach, and there's a couple of scenes where they fight. Oh Jesus, you know. And then we can get like the AI. Now we've talked about AI a lot on this channel in regards to how it's incorporated into low budget films. It's coming, people. I don't have a problem with using AI in these low budget movies, but we are in the early days of it, and this is one of these instances where I think it's really going to show. You know, it's going to be able to tell very easily when you, in a couple of years' time, thinking, man, that was like the early days of the AI effects. Some films have used it better. This one, I mean, I think, to be fair, some of the AI shots, they're quite fun. I mean, you know, it looks like turning into kind of king shark, but it just looks like an AI effect. And the shark, because of this, the shark creatures look very inconsistent. There's ones that just sit. We're introduced with them just seem to disappear. You know, it's the effects aren't brilliant. Let me just kind of say that. If you're if you're the sort of person that writes AI slop in the comments, let me tell you, this one's not going to change your mind. And again, I think there are. It strikes me as maybe they've made these kind of AI sequences and then wrote a film around it. Because they're not brilliant. They look like their first attempts. They've taken a photo of this guy with a mask and they've animated it. Right, let's make a film about that. Because that's what it looks like. The lore is kind of all over the place. The story is not particularly interesting. As I say, it kind of... we have very uninteresting characters that kind of mumble and can't really emote, and then... you know, we have this kind of discount sort of Romeo and Juliet kind of story, which really I wasn't kind of like feeling that at all, to be brutally honest. As I say, I think maybe you should have focused just on were-sharks, to be honest. It should have been a campier film. I think the sirens or mermaids really didn't add anything to this movie. They really just seemed very peripheral to me and didn't really serve a purpose outside of let's have some female characters or something. It's just terrible. This movie really now is probably going to be in a contender for the worst list of 2026, I've got to say. Even for low budget, quickly produced Brit movies, this one is pretty terrible. But it's actually quite funny. I've got to be honest with you, and I don't mean intentionally. And you can watch it thinking, Jesus Christ, this is a poor film. Lily Pickering. I hope that's a pseudonym. I really do. 2 out of 10. Have you seen it? What were your thoughts? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.